I was up way too late last night playing, but we can jump in and we can finally chat Android 12 on the OnePlus 9s. It's here, and I'm kind of digging it. Major operating system updates always come with some teething pains, and this year OnePlus is walking farther away from their Oxygen OS roots, blending more in-house development with their sister brand Oppo, which of course has Android enthusiasts acting betrayed. But despite the emotional reaction to the idea of the brand, there are some new interesting software bits and improvements for us to check out. I didn't play much with the OnePlus betas this year, so my thoughts here are less than 24 hours in. If there are heavier or more systemic bugs to be fixed later, I personally have not found them yet. In the brief time I've been using it, I have the issue where when you try to close all apps, the app that's on your screen stays open. Now that's kind of like how Xiaomi phones work normally, so I'm not sure that's really a bug. That might be a new feature. Also, while this update was fairly painless, the new clock widget completely rearranged my one home screen. Like, this is a silly amount of space for a clock widget to take up. And of course, others have reported the processor swap bug. On the OnePlus 9, it might list you as having a Snapdragon 855, but on my 9 Pro, it shows properly as an 888. All in all, I'd say not too shabby. I haven't run into any more severe issues like breaking high refresh rate displays or destroying wireless performance. So switching gears and onto the list of improvements, that's where I would like to start. Wi-Fi on my Wi-Fi 6 router, noticeably better. We went from acceptable bandwidth, but probably the slowest premium phone of the year, right up to top tier competitive, especially when I'm pulling files from my NOS, locally on my home network. That's significantly faster. It's more like what we should expect from an expensive phone. I've only popped my SIM card back in for a bit, but so far T-Mobile 5G seems like it's the same as it's always been in my neighborhood. Getting into the look and feel, a lot of folks are gonna be keyed up about the UI. And honestly, it's not that different. Oxygen was a nicely skinned and prettier version of stock Android. This new flavor is about the same. Controls, icon density, search and shelf, and other fun features are generally where they've always been. I think one of the biggest issues we have in the tech enthusiasm space is trying to keep all of these changes in perspective. The difference going from last year's Oxygen OS to something more like Oppo's Color OS is way less stark than a Pixel user going from Android 11 to Android 12. Those changes far more severe. One example, the shelf has moved to a swipe from the top corner, but I'm happy because that hasn't broken the core functionality of the notification shade like on newer versions of MIUI. It's a separate collection of features and it's tucked out of the way if you don't use it as often like I don't. I liked the layout and look of multitasking a little better on Android 11, but the controls are clearer on Android 12 for things like split screen and locking apps. Plus, there's this cool little ColorOS accessibility feature. I really like it. When on your home screen, a swipe up from the edge of your display condenses all of your apps for easy one-thumb launching. It's a separate feature from one-handed mode, and it's a really smooth action to use. So no heavy Material You influence, but it wouldn't be a OnePlus without a bunch of color, wallpaper, always on display, and icon customization features. And the gallery layout for your photos. It reminds me a little of the tiled look from BlackBerries back in the day. If you want to pinch to change up the tile size, you can get something more traditional. And that brings us to the camera. And this to me is one of the biggest upgrades to the phone I can find. Camera app layout looks a bit more like Oppo, but all the under the hood processing seems to have been changed too. On Android 11, when shooting a photo, OnePlus would do this post-shutter scan. The shutter would activate fast and then burst a rapid series of images to stack an HDR file. From that stack of images, the camera would pick the clearest as the image to save. So you weren't always guaranteed to get the exact moment you hit the shutter. And that's gone now. The 9 Pro handles a bit more like my Vivo X70, shooting and locking near instantly. Now it means the image you save might be a bit blurrier if there's a lot of movement happening when you hit the shutter, but you will get the moment you're asking for. So on top of some of the best camera sensors of the year, we retain great features like 4K 60 and 4K 120 from both the main and ultra-wide cameras. And of course, the new X-Pan crop is really fun to play with. We still don't have any native manual controls for video that I can find, nor any support for headphone or Bluetooth audio, but in such a substantial update for this operating system, I'm just glad we didn't lose any features at this point. While photo processing and performance has improved, in terms of overall phone performance, every manufacturer this year has had to deal with thermals and power draw on these newer, more powerful SoCs. OnePlus's solutions on Android 11 were inelegant for how they would throttle certain apps. I think it's fair to say it was more than just a bit clumsy. Moving to Android 12, now we get a proper performance mode in the battery settings. After the update, you're likely throttled by default, like on a Samsung. But if you need the extra horsepower, you can kick it up a notch. I need to do more testing to see how much it really impacts performance in real-world apps, and I might try and do another write-up or a follow-up on SomeGadgetGuy.com. Genuinely, I think it's better to have consistent performance rather than a phone that might open Twitter a fraction of a millisecond faster, but then also tank your battery and run hot to the touch. Lastly, and this is more of a Google thing than a OnePlus thing, desktop mode is cleaner on Android 12, but seems even less functional than on Android 11. The app drawer is a strange little side button. I can't find any way to leave shortcuts on the desktop, and the mouse doesn't work for opening apps. I have to use the keyboard and direction keys. It would be nice if we could get any polish on this feature. Maybe catch up a little to DeX, to Moto Ready 4, or LG's Screen Plus. There's so much power in your pocket, it would be nice if we could use it in a slightly more traditional computing fashion. So we should probably start wrapping this up. The new Android 12 update for the OnePlus 9? I don't hate it. I actually kinda like it. If you're at all familiar with ColorOS, FunTouch, or MIUI, you can see what direction OnePlus is heading here with Oxygen. A few things are a little different. Definitely a few bugs still need to be ironed out. But on the whole, this has fixed more issues for my phone than it's caused. I'm inclined to call that progress. Okay, a little more testing needs to be done to see if power management has actually improved with these new battery settings. I haven't even tried using the new work-life balance features. And if you're doing this update, I would make sure you have your phone app somewhere on your home screen before running this update. Just trust me, that one's kind of critical. Otherwise, the new accessibility features and the camera processing seem like solid additions to a phone I already really liked. If the overall mission is to reduce costs and share development resources with a larger brand like Oppo, that should be a win for OnePlus fans in the long run. The next major test will come when we see how older generations of phones, like the 8, 8 Pro, maybe going back to the 7s, how those OnePlus phones are treated. And have you installed the update on your OnePlus 9? I almost don't want to ask what other people's experiences have been, because right now, like I said, I'm digging this. But okay, what have your experiences been like? Drop some comments down below. There's just so much ire on Twitter right now. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel, supporting your favorite content creators, super critical. I greatly appreciate all of you who are checking out links underneath this video, maybe shopping a little merch. That kind of stuff really does help keep production rolling on this channel. Full list, all of my affiliates and partnerships, SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider, just maybe, joining the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the galaxy. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next video.